If any of you have been driving between Yellowstone and Cody, Wyoming, near the east entrance of Yellowstone National Park is a campground called the Hale Campground. Maybe you've wondered who Hale was. Well, I'm here at the site of where Hale passed away, fighting along with 14 others, fighting the Blackwater forest fire in August 21st, 1937, so nearly 88 years ago today. This spot played a key role in the demise of those firefighters. Apparently, they were fighting a pretty benign ground fire that had started by lightning a few days previously, and they were a mixed crew of CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, and also U.S. Forest Service personnel that came up here to fight this fire. And a ground fire just moves, you know, up the slope at a fairly benign pace. They were fighting it with backpack sprayers, picks and shovels. There was no trail back then, so they had carried all that gear up this side of this mountain, 4 miles from camp. At this spot, they built a small dam. There was a seep of water, and they were using that dam to fill their backpack sprayers. A storm suddenly came through. Back then, they didn't have a lot of weather forecasting capability, and blew some of the sparks over their heads and down below them. Now, there was a group up higher led by Ranger Post who saw that happen, and he dispatched a runner down to Ranger Clayton to tell him they needed to put out that spot fire or they'd be trapped. Well, as they were organizing their men and doing that, the winds blew into what they say is it was a cyclone, and it blew that ground fire up into the crowns of the trees, and it became a crown fire, which is a very devastating, fast-moving, fueled by the winds, and it started moving upslope from behind them, and they were trapped. 2 groups of men. The group up higher sought shelter on an escarpment, a bare escarpment of rock, and that's an entirely different story. Most of them survived. A few of them didn't. They've perished. But Rex's group and Ranger Clayton's group were trapped down in here. When the upper group came down later that night, they were up there all day with the flames whipping back and forth across them. What they had actually lanterns with them. They were coming back to camp, and what they found after the fire had subsided was a couple of piles of bodies down in this little ravine here. And what they had done is attempted to pile them in and shield them with their bodies. And the family story goes that Hale was the one on top of the pile. He had sacrificed his life in an effort to save the others. And there's some evidence, I believe Ranger Clayton had done the same with his men. And they named Clayton Mountain up here after Ranger Clayton, and then, of course, the Hale Campground after Rex. Surely a gruesome discovery. Rex left behind a wife and a newborn daughter, back in Star Valley, which is a couple hundred miles from here, and also 7 brothers and a sister, and of which the next oldest was my grandpa. And that devastated, as you can imagine, his father, who drank himself to death the years following this incident. But that's the story of how Hale perished, and his life and his heroic actions he took in order to save his men, and why the campground's named after him. There's a monument here up high and also one down on the highway. And I believe there's another one up higher for the group that was with Ranger Post. So.